Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto gets gifts from the gods Sasuke bashing Harem? If you enjoy then, please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to Oregon creator of this beautiful creation. The date was October 10th. The setting Konohagakure no, the village hidden in the leaves. It was 9 years after the attack of the mighty Kaiu no Kitsun upon the village. The Kaiu was one of the 9 Beiju, the most powerful creatures in existence. With a swing of its 9 tails, it could topple cities, demolish mountains, and create raging tsunamis. 9 years ago, the Kyobi had attacked the village, killing many a shinobi. The village's leader, the Yandami Hokage Minato Namikaze, and his wife, Kusha Uzumaki, had just had their only child, Naruto Uzumaki, delivered to them on that fateful day 9 years ago. As the Kyobi descended upon the village, Minato Namikaze was rushing to create a plan to defeat it. Unfortunately, he could only find one solution. He had to seal the Kyobi into his own child at the cost of his life. So, Minato took his child from its mother with a somber frown. Upon making his way to the battlefield, he summoned the Shinigami, who sealed the beast into Nar while taking Minato's soul at the same time. Thus, Naruto Uzumaki became the Jinchuriki of the Kabi no Kitsune. 9 years from then, on this very day, Naruto was being chased by a mob which had formed to finish what the Yandami had started and end the boy's life once and for all, thinking he was the demon itself. It was this scene that Kami herself was watching with a frown from up in the heavens. The boy had more assassination attempts on him in the first 9 years of his life than the first generation of all the Kages put together. As she watched this happen with a sigh, Kami wished that she could do something, but it was not to her jurisdiction. She had to receive permission from the only deity higher than herself. Opposite to what many people thought, Kami was actually not the highest deity in existence. There was only one above her. And he was the one who had created time, space and even life itself. This deity was the one who gave permission to every god and goddess for their jobs when they had to do them and only intervened when he found it necessary. Kami sighed again as she wished she could help the young blonde. Fortunately for her, the chance had arrived. Kami-sama, your presence is requested by the High Lord. A meek voice spoke. She turned to see one of the High Lord's angel messengers facing her. Tell him I will be there right away. She told the angel. It nodded and disappeared. Almost immediately after, Kami did so as well. She reappeared inside a white and gold courtroom which had marble statues of all the deities beside each pillar that held it up. Come forth, Kami. I wish to see you. A deep voice rang out. Kami walked through a pair of massive doors and entered a room where only one individual sat on a throne of pure matter. This was the High Lord, the only deity above herself. Yes, High Lord, she questioned. First of all, Kami-chan, I told you to stop calling me High Lord. Just calling me Jinso or Jinskin will do. The individual spoke with an annoyed sigh. He knew that Kami did this just to annoy him. Jinso had hair the color of dark chocolate and blue, green, gray eyes that seemed as though they were endless. Whenever he got angry, Jinso's eyes turned a mix of blood, red, and amber. It was an unusual combo that stunned Kami and yet turned her on at the same time. His skin had a natural tan to it. And despite not having a 6-pack or an 8-pack, his body was toned and built like an athlete. Despite being as old as time itself, Jinso chose to take the form of a 16-year-old boy for some reason. Needless to say, even Kami had to refrain from jumping him. Fine, Jin Soken, Kami replied with a rebellious teenager sigh. Second, I noticed that you were watching the boy named Naruto Uzumaki. I was, sir, I just cannot believe how much pain and anguish that boy has gone through and would do anything to make it better for him, she said. Jano nodded. That is exactly why I have called you here. For the first time in a million years, I am going to show myself to the planet once more. But sir, didn't you say you would only intervene if you saw fit? Kami asked with an audible gasp. Jinso nodded again. And I see a big reason to intervene. This boy's suffering has gone on too long. I dare say that he has a heart, possibly purer than my own, as he has not turned on those wretched infidels only because there are a few people in the village that are actually precious to him. Jinso stood up out of his chair. Come with me, Kami. It is time to set things straight. With that, the two disappeared in a column of light that stretched far into the sky, letting all the angels and good souls know that __ was about to get real. Down on Earth, Naruto Uzumaki was not having a good day. First, he tore his pants on an open nail, causing a hole to rip in the crotch area. Then, he fell in a mud puddle while walking to Ikyaku's. Next, when the boy got to his favorite ramen stand in the whole world, he found out that Ayame-chan was sick. So, Tui Jiggy had to close the stand for a few days and take care of her. Finally, he got chased by an angry mob into the alleyway he was currently in. They each took turns beating him and crushing his little body. Yet he did not cry. Nar had learned from an early age that crying only egged the crowd on, and thus made the beatings far worse than normal. So he held in all his tears as they pummeled him. They had broken the boy's hands and feet with hammers so he couldn't run away or pull any demon tricks. One drunken villager had bashed him over the head with a sake bottle, causing glass shards to embed themselves in his scalp. Then some of the mob had taken turns stomping on his frail body and breaking some of his ribs. The last thing they did before preparing to kill him was one took a rusty kunai and carved it deep into his 6 whisker marks. Then, the leader rose, his arm kunai in hand. I guess this is it. See you in the afterlife. Tui Ayame-chan Hokage Gigi. Nar closed his eyes and prepared for his death. However, he didn't feel any pain. What happened? Am I dead? The little boy opened his eyes to see a chocolate-haired teen standing over him, his tanned hand gripping the arm of the man who was about to kill him. What are you doing, boy? Step aside so we can kill this demon. A civilian genin in his 40s yelled. You mongrels will not lay a hand upon this boy. The teen spoke, authority dripping from his voice. His voice made Nar shudder in awe. This teen was radiating more power than what the Kyobi had at full strength. If what he was told in the academy was true. The whiskered blonde then felt himself being lifted up and pressed against the bosom of a silver-haired woman. Who are you? He asked her. The woman looked deep into his Saruan orbs and replied, my name is Kami. Narkin. Don't worry, they won't hurt you anymore. The blonde immediately felt a warmth surround him and fell asleep, a comforted smile on his face. Kami set him on the ground just as Jinso turned to her. Go find the Hokage. I'll deal with them. Kami nodded and ran off in search of the Hokage. What's wrong with you? Stop protecting that demon and let us kill it. Another villager shouted. Jinso turned his gaze back to them. That boy is no more a demon than Satan is the ruler of the heavens. You all are the real demons. Jinso then drew a golden katana from his back. He twirled it around and got into a stance. And I'll make sure to send you to hell. With the Hokage en route to Jinso's location here is in Sarutobi had just finished his paperwork for the day when he felt an incredible surge of power coming from the middle of the village. He could feel the raw anger inside it spread all over the village. Is that the Kyobi's power? No, that doesn't have the same amount of bloodlust in it as the Kyobis. Oh, Narutkin, I hope you're all right. I had called 3 squads of Ambu to follow him and he donned his battle gear. Then they had begun making their way to the spot where the surge was felt. About halfway there, they were stopped by a silver-haired woman of ethereal beauty. Hokage-sama. It's Naruto Uzumaki. I need you to follow me. No time to explain. The Hoge's eyes widened as he nodded and began following the woman. What he saw when he arrived shocked him. A chocolate-haired teen was standing in the middle of the scene of a massacre, covered in blood and holding a sword as equally bloody as him. Dead civilians littered the ground. His eyes softened when he saw that Nar was sleeping on the ground behind the teen with a smile on his face. The teen turned and faced the Hokage. Are you the leader of this village? The teen questioned, authority in his tone. Somehow it made everyone there get the feeling that they should be on their knees bowing. Yes, I am. And who might you be? The teen closed his eyes and flicked the blood off of his blade before she it onto his back. I will not tell you my name in front of these Ambu of yours, for they have not earned my respect. You have, but they have not. Especially the one known as Anu. The Hokage and all the Ambu look shocked. The only other people in this village that have earned my respect are the young Uzumaki here. And the people that truly helped him. The rest may burn. For all I care. One of the Anbu who was wearing a cane turtle mask suddenly shouted out at him. Hey, how dare you speak to the Hokage and is that way? We deserve to know. The teen turned his head to the Anbu with a growl, his eyes turning a mix of blood red and amber, which frightened everyone but Kami and Nar, who was sleeping at the time. Silence your tongue, mortal, or I shall be quick to cut it off. He snarled. The teen's eyes then turned back to their natural color. Hokage-san, I would like to meet with you in private to discuss the young Uzumaki. The Hokage nodded and told the Ambu to back off. Kami grabbed Naruto and the 4 went to the Hokage Tower. Hoge's office. Now what would you like to discuss? I still cannot tell you my name. Jinso suddenly replied, but why not? We are in private right now. Here is, and looked confused. Jinso got up and walked over to a corner. Danzo-san, I know you are listening and I would just like to say, your end will be soon along with that of Roots. With that, Jinso tore a seal off the wall that had been disguised to look like wallpaper. He also tore off 5 other listening seals before sitting back down. How did you was at a loss for words for once in his lifetime? I know all here is in Serbi and my name is Jinso. Thank you for telling me that. Also, who is she? He asked, pointing to the silver-haired woman who was currently holding Nar to her chest like a protective mother would do. The blonde simply snuggled into her ample bosom. She is known to you humans as Kami. The old Serbi's eyes nearly bugged out of his skull. KKK Kami, he shouted. Here is glad he put up a silencing seal around the room, or else all of Konoha would have heard his shout. Yep, that's me, Kami exclaimed. She then jerked her thumb at Jinso. And that's my SE. Hai's eyes once more nearly burst from his skull. SSS. His eyes darted back and forth between the two. I am indeed Kam Seni, so to speak. My name is indeed Jinso, and only those who I have given permission to are allowed to speak my name, otherwise they burst into flames and die. Jinso SE was the one who created time, space, and even life. Jinso nodded. Aside from that, I wish to talk you about Naruto Uzumaki. I have observed his life so far along with Kami, and I am severely disappointed with this village. This boy has endured more pain in his life than all the tortured souls in hell combined. Thus, he has my respect and admiration. Not to be rude, Jinso-sama, but why are you telling me this? Jino seemed to smirk for a moment. I am telling you this because I wish to give the boy a gift. A gift? Jinso nodded. Not just any gift. I am going to give him what you humans call a kek. Genk among other things. A bloodline. Along with that, I will give the boy some other things to help him in his life. But with this, I ask a favor of you. Here is made a mental note to double up on his meds. A god was asking him Toto a favor for him. I wish for you to shape up this village. You have been letting the civilian council gain too much sway in the village. In fact, if it were not for the boy having precious people in this village, I would have rained brimstone and fire upon it after only a month. Grow a backbone here as in Serbia. This village is a military dictatorship. It is not a democracy. You make the rules and the villagers follow them. Now, shape up and fix this disgrace to the shinobi name that you call a village. Jinso roared, pounding his fist on the desk and breaking it into splinters. Unfortunately, this woke Nar up. Where am I? Am I dead? Nar asked as he groggy stared at the ceiling. You're not dead, Naruto-kun. You're very much alive, came the voice of the silver-haired woman he met before. He looked up and saw her beautiful smiling face. Suddenly, the little boy's eyes grew very big. You're Kami, he exclaimed as he jumped out of her arms. The boy got ready to bow when Jinso stopped him. You do not need to bow, my boy. If anything, I should be bowing to you for all that you have endured. The whisker-marked blonde turned to see his chocolate-haired savior. Who are you? You look a bit young to be killing a bunch of people. Nar commenting, surprising them with how calm he was when most kids would have scrambled into the corner of the room after seeing someone massacre a group. Here got a bit worried as Naruto didn't know that this was an age-old god he was speaking to. Instead, Jinso let out a laugh that sounded like a tower bell ringing. My name is Jinso, my whiskered friend. And would you be surprised if I told you that I was actually a god as old as time who created life itself? Nar pondered for a moment. Well, most people would say that you were bluffing, but seeing as how we're able to make elements out of thin air and that I have a 200 feet tall demon sealed in my gut, I'd say it's a fair chance. That shocked her. Naruto__, you already know about the Kobe. Nar nodded. Hi, Gigi. I met Ra-chan a year ago when I fainted during a beating. His mind went blank for about 3 seconds before he shouted, It's Aishi. Jinso then laughed. Again. Of course, the Kaiu is a she. Why are humans so east when it comes to beings of great power and always thinking that said beings must be male for some reason? He replied. But other than that, Hokage-san fix your village. Or else there will be hell to pay. The Hokage nodded, getting the hidden message. Jinso turned to Nar. Naruto__, I wish for you to come with me for a moment. I have a few gifts for you. Nar started bouncing up and down. Despite being very mature for a 9-year-old, he, like every kid, got excited at the mention of presents. Gifts? Really? Jinso nodded. The brown-haired teen turned to Heen. I will be back with him in 30 minutes. Please call one of your what is it called? Council meetings as there is a topic I wish to discuss. Here. Isn't nodded. I will do that. The elderly Sarut Toby got on. One need to speak to Nar. I want you to have fun with Jinso. All right. Narutkin. Hi. We're going to have lots of fun. Right. Jin's knee. Jinso chuckled. Despite being a god, it was good to not have every person address him with an honorific of high authority or demand people respect him. Yes, we are Narutkin. Then, he, Kami, and Nar disappeared in a flash. Jinso's throne room up in the heavens. They reappeared inside what looked to be a teen's bedroom. The walls were colored a sandy brown and the ceiling was light gray. There was a plasma screen TV hanging on the wall and a GameCube. Wii and PS3 were hooked up to it. Facing the TV was a long black leather couch that was shaped like a U. A plain bed was in one corner of the room and a black metal desk with shelves was near it and was covered in papers, pencils, pens, scissors, what appeared to be a Glock 19. And a Tonto hung up on the wall. Whoa, is this your room? Man, Jinso grinned. Yes, it is. Narcown. This is where I go when I wish to relax or simply play a few video games. What's a video game? Nar asked in childish wonder. Jinso led him over to the TV. Well, I can't really explain it in all my infinite wisdom, but how about I show you? Nar nodded excitedly. Jinso went over to his GameCube and started The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. Naruto's eyes grew wide in awe. Then Jinso started going around on Aona, firing arrows at Beoblins and Kararoks, and then transforming into a wolf, making Naruto let out a double rainbow guy style. Whoa. Then Jinso saved his game and powered down the GameCube. That was awesome, Nan. May I try? Jinso chuckled. I would let you, but we have to get back to Konoha for a council meeting, so we don't have the time. I can give you your gifts, however. Jinso walked over to the wall and pulled the Tonto off, making it grow to the length of a standard katana. This is my prized blade. Naruto __. It can turn into any weapon you desire. And the only limit is your imagination. Nar took the blade from Jinso with trembling hands. Also, I've modified it a little so that you can stick it onto your back and take it off with a mental push. And as an added bonus, you can give a different mental push to make it become a certain element. Go ahead, test it out. Jinso and Kami stepped back and watched Nar swing the blade around with natural talent. When he was done, Kami said, amazing. Naruto __, you're a natural at swordsmanship. Nar blushed from the praise. Next, I have an even more special gift for you. He put 2 fingers into his mouth and whistled. Almost immediately, a black blur appeared and landed on top of Naruto, licking his face. It turned out to be a fox kid with 3 tails. This is your own personal companion. She is a 3-tailed kitsune and loves pranks. However, she doesn't have a name yet. Would you like to give her one? Nar nodded, having stood up and held the kit, who was now asleep, in his arms. I'll call her Mumi, cuz you know it's a blessing that you're giving her to me. Man. Naruto replied, giving a fox-like smile that made Kami glamp him with a squeal of kawaii. The goddess began stroking his whisker marks, making Nar purr. All right, Kami-chan, enough hugging. I wish to give Nar his 2 final gifts. Kami reluctantly got off of the blonde, and Jinso knelt down so he was eye level with Nar. Naruto __. What do you know of Kekjenk? The blonde put a hand up to his chin in a thinking pose. Well, I know that Sasuke Tay has one, and everyone fawns over him for it. He also keeps repeating that nothing can beat the sharing and that it makes him an elite above everyone else. Personally, I don't see why it makes him a so-called elite. It just changes his abilities a little, right? Well, you're half right. It does change one's abilities. However, each bloodline is Different and does different things. The sharing allows Sashik-san to copy hand seals for Enjutsu and also lets him see through any genjutsu except for the Mangekyo. Sharing genjutsu. It also lets him cast genjutsu on a person by looking them in the eye when it's active. Only a person with a sharing can break out of a sharing genjutsu. So it really does make him an elite. Not exactly. See, bloodlines tend to make people like Sasaki a bit arrogant. That just means they'll be a bit overconfident sometimes. In battle. However, Sasake's case is different. He was actually a nice kid before his family was massacred. Then, the civilians and the civilian council started raising him up on a golden pedestal and essentially put his ego on steroids. Now he probably thinks he can win any fight and that everyone will do what says just because he's an Uchiha. Jinso turned away from Nar. Now Narkin, if, hypothetically speaking, I were to give you a bloodline, would you become arrogant with it? Nar shook his head in a frenzy. No. No way, Nan. I know I can't win every battle. Despite having Rick Chan Yuki in me. And even then, if I were to have a bloodline, I just got to train harder if I do lose. Jinso gave a satisfied nod. Well, good, Naruto__. Because that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a bloodline of your own. Now, remember, don't become arrogant with it. Nar nodded. Okay, Nan, but what does it do? Well, Narutkin, your bloodline would essentially allow you to manipulate shadows themselves. Like the lazy pineapple-haired people. Jinso laughed. Sort of. See, the Naris manipulate shadows with their own chakra. However, this bloodline will essentially put a bit of shadow energy into your own DNA, causing you to be able to move them around without chakra. You will just have to sense the shadows all around you and focus on linking your energy with their own. It's a one-time thing. So once you've successfully connected with one shadow, you'll be able to connect any and all the shadows around you at any time. Sugoi Nar yelled. Now then, this will hurt a little bit, but it'll be over quickly. Jins tapped 2 fingers to Naruto's forehead and infused a bit of shadow energy in Naruto's genes, altering them a tiny bit to create a new bloodline. The blonde held in a scream as the process shortly ended. Now for your last gift. Jinso pulled a large scroll out of thin air. Nar, this is the summoning contract for the dragons. No one before you has signed this as I was saving it for someone with a heart as pure as I now. Bite your finger and sign your name in blood. Then put a handprint of blood next to your name. Nar did as he was told, and his name glowed when he finished. Now when you summon the boss dragon, Bahamd, you must not be afraid. Dragons are the living embodiment of courage. And to pass his test, you must stand up to him. Otherwise, he will try to kill you with fire. Lots of fire. Understand? Nar nodded, a little bit worried. Well, now that that's out of the way, what do you say we go visit the Hokage again? The blonde smiled at that. Jinso called forth a dragon. Summon and helped Nar onto its back. The 3 then soared down to Konoha with Nar cheering the entire way. Council room. What is the holdup? Hokage-sama. I got out of bed at 11 o'clock and would like to get back to sleep. A fat blob of a civilian councilman said with a yawn. Here is an grew a pulsing vein on his head. I'm sure our last 2 remaining people will be here in a minute. He said, grinding his teeth. If you don't mind my asking, Hokage-sama, why are we still waiting? All the council members are present. It would be illogical to continue waiting, Shibi stated, fixing his glasses. Well, here is interrupted by Naruto's cry of woohoo crash. A large red dragon crashed through the ceiling and its passengers fell onto the floor. The first of the two to get up was a chocolate-haired teen with blue-green. Akira, I told you to land on the roof, not go through the roof. Jinso's voice said. The dragon merely replied, sorry about that. The gaki over there kept tugging at my ear and I lost my balance. With that, the dragon known as Akira Reverse summoned itself. Well, it seems as if our two guests have arrived after all. Did you have fun? Naruto __. The council members looked to see Nar standing beside a chocolate-haired teen with blue, green, gray eyes. Considering I got to ride a dragon and crash it through a building, what do you think, Gigi? Nar asked with a you're damn right I did. Look, you better have had fun cause I'm probably going to get yelled for destroying the roof of this building. Jinso berated. He then looked to see the entire council, both civilian and shinobi, staring at him. The brunette simply decided to pull a Kakashi. Yo, he said, putting his hand up lazily with two fingers forming a V and even forming a weird eye. Smile with both eyes. The result. All the civilian and shinobi council members face faulted except for Hizen. Yo, you destroy the roof of this building and all you can say is yo. A pink-haired banshee in need of anger management. Classes shrieked. Nar had to cover Megumi's ears to protect the kit from permanent brain damage. Jinso grabbed the hilt of his sword and barely drew it out of its sheath. A flash of light signaled that he had moved it as well as the __ of the hilt connecting with the sheath. He pointed above the civilian council members. Please read that message on the wall as it states my only rule. All the council members looked up to see 4 words sliced into the wall with perfect calligraphy. Don't __ with me. Got it? He asked, making his voice sound a bit more demonic. Now, Jan, I believe you had something you wish to discuss. Here is and drew their attention back to the meeting. Jinso nodded. You're damn right I do. He replied, shocking everyone. I have seen the 9 years of this boy's life, and it infuriated me that most of this village would stoop so low as to harm a child. He has had more assassination attempts in the first 9 years of his life than most of the numerous cages ever had in all their careers combined. I have had enough of you people. From now on, this child is under my protection. If anyone tries to harm him, Jinso snapped his fingers, and a training dummy appeared. He grasped the handle of his katana, and another flash of light signified that he had moved it. Upon the click of hilt meeting sheath, the training dummy exploded in a shower of weighted sand. Get the picture. Most of them were shocked. They had barely seen the teen move, and yet, he perfectly performed an Ado strike twice in a row. However, one moronic blob of a civilian counselor decided to pipe up. How dare you threaten the council? We could have you executed publicly, Jin. So then began laughing wildly, almost as if mocking him. The only way that could happen is if I lived in this village. This place is not my home, you moronic pile of horseshit. The god replied, and if you pathetic little weaklings on the civilian council ever threatened me, Naruto, or this woman over here, Jinso let out a blast of ki so great that most of the civilian council pissed an __ their pants and then fainted. The ones who didn't were the ones who had retired from the shinobi business. And somehow the only ones on the civilian side of the council left standing were all people who liked Naruto and helped him. The shinobi council members were having a hard time breathing as it felt like the air was being stolen from their lungs. Even Heen, the Kami no shinobi, was feeling lightheaded. Jinso then stopped the flow of ki and turned to the shinobi council. Sorry about that. All the morons in the civilian council just really annoyed me. Most of them were shocked once more. He could produce that much ki when he was merely annoyed. And I know that you're thinking that it's unreal for someone to produce that much ki when they're only annoyed. Let's just say if I were pissed off, at least half of this village would be 6 feet under from my anger alone. He then sheepishly rubbed the back of his head with a goofy smile. Thump. Eniki had just fainted. Then why don't you stay in this village? Logic dictates that, if you cared about Naruto Uzumaki, you would stay with him. To ensure his safety, Shibi asked. Jinso gave a mischievous grin. I never said I wasn't staying in the village, now did I? He turned to the Hokage. Hokage saying, could I simply spar with a Jonin to see my placement? Here is an nodded. I'll have you in one of our Jonin spar tomorrow morning, seeing as you are obviously above Jonin and Chunin level. Jinso nodded. Well do now. If you'll excuse me, I'm off to go to sleep. With that, he, Kami, and Naruto all left the council room. Silence followed for about 3 minutes before Shikaku said, this is too damn troublesome with the trio. So, Nar, do you want to stay at your apartment for the night? I could probably find us a house to stay in. Nar nodded. Yeah, I don't really have the money to rent a new apartment. Plus, people raised the price by 3 times the original amount. Whenever I tried to buy. Kami held Naruto closer to her. As people began glaring at the blonde and Jinso while giving leerous looks to Kami. Jinso then cast a no seals genjutsu around them so people would only see Ma Guy walking with Lee while both were in speedos. Needless to say, screams of horror filled the air while Jinso chuckled mischievously. The next morning, Nar got up to see Kami cooking something while Jinso sat at his table with a cup of coffee. Morning, little bro. Hope you slept well. The god told him. Yeah, I did, man. Better than I've slept in a long time. Lucky for you, you got up just in time for breakfast. Kami said happily as she set a plate of bacon, eggs, pancakes, and orange juice down for the boy. The blonde quickly wolfed down his food before checking the clock. Ah crap, I'm going to be late for class, he exclaimed. Jinso set the newspaper he had been reading down. Not a problem, little bro. The brunette put a hand on Naruto's shoulder and warped the boy to right in front of the academy, surprising many of had been around them. Whoa, that was so cool, missin'. The blonde exclaimed. Jinso nodded, but not before noticing the glares directed at the blonde. Now remember, don't take __ from anybody. And give him hell. Squirt. Nar scowled at him. Stop calling me a squirt. I'll stop calling you a squirt when you actually get to my height. Yay. Jinso immediately warped out, leaving Nar to walk into the academy. The blonde had recently gotten a change of clothes, and Jinso had burned the orange jumpsuit that rivaled made a guy's spandex of youth and all the other sets of it that Naruto had. He was now wearing a white hakama with gold trimmings over a black kimono that had silver trimmings. The kimono had the kanji for kitsune on it. The tanto that Jinso had given him was stuck to his back in the form of a ninjutsu. Underneath, Naruto was wearing the same type of sandals that Jiraiya of the Sonin wore. The outfit only accentuated his whiskers marks. Also, in addition to his bloodline, Jinso had made Nar taller and fit like himself. He was built like an athlete and had a natural tan. Nar had lost all baby fat and had become what Jinso described was a lady killer, whatever the hell that was. Deciding to make a cool entrance, Nar powered chakra to his foot and kicked the door in, sending it flying against the opposite wall. This gained the attention of everyone in the classroom. As Nar walked in, he gained lustful stares from almost every girl in the classroom who apparently didn't know who he was. Are you a new student here? Ka and Isazuka asked. Despite his interest in the new person, still wondered where Naruto was. It had been a couple of days since anyone had last seen the blonde. The two became friends after Nar had helped Ka get Akamaru to the vet for rabies shots. Come on, dog breath. Don't you recognize me, TT? Ebeo. The eyes of every person in the room bulged. Nar. Upon that realization, one Hyuga Eris in the back of the room gained a mean nosebleed and fainted. Of course, it's me. Who the hell do you think I was? The showdown, the blonde remarked casually. He simply began making his way to the back of the room to hang out with Hinata, the girl he actually loved, when he was stopped by a UPFO, an unidentified pink flat-chested object. Naruto Baka stopped trying to show up. Sasuke __, the pink-haired bi-air girl known as Sakura Haruno shrieked. She then raised her fist and tried to punch the blonde. Thump. Her fist was caught directly in the blonde's palm, while his sword was at her neck. Yo, Hinata-chan, what's up? He asked happily. Nothing much, Naruto-kun. The Hyuga stuttered. Naruto-kun probably noticed that I'm stuttering and now he must think I'm weak. The girl suddenly began to think. Her father had been strict in her training, but on the inside, he wished he would be able to show her kindness. However, the Hyuga elders said that if she remained weak, they would give her the caged bird seal and put her in the branch family. Hinata was so deep in her thoughts that she hadn't noticed Nar putting his face closer to hers. You know, Hinata-chan, that broke her out of her thoughts to see his face right in front of hers. That blush of yours makes you look so damn adorable. That made. The girl let out an eep and tried to hide inside her coat. Naruto-kun said I was adorable. Eep. Now I just got to kidnap him, take him away. And then Hinata's thoughts began trailing down a different path as blood dripped from her nose. Nar was busy watching Hinata and didn't notice Sasaki come up to him. Hey Nar, where'd you get the sword? Sasaki asked in actual interest as he sat down beside the blonde. You see, he used to be a douche. But then Jinso suddenly appeared and showed him just what would happen if he went down the path of an Avenger. That changed Sasaki. It was a gift from my Nissan. You like it? Yeah, it looks pretty cool. They were both interrupted by a shriek from Sakura. Naruto Baka, stop trying to be cool. Everyone knows that you're just a worthless orphan who's unworthy of being loved and has no family. Your mother was probably a street __ who got pregnant off your dad and died from an STD while you left and never came back. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at Nar, who seemed calm. Too calm. Sasaki face palmed. Why did Kami have to curse him with these horrid fangirls? The Uchiha looked to his right to see Nar with a blank expression. __ He must be really mad to not show any emotion. Must refrain from killing. Must refrain from carving her guts out and selling them to a butcher shop. The blonde raged inside his head. Naruto __ I say screw the rules and just kill the girl now. Ra told him from his mindscape. He was about to do it when Jinso's voice appeared in his head. Hey little bro, guess what? They decided that even though I'm way above Jonin level, I'm a Tunin and just need experience to be promoted. I'm also teaching your class with Iruka. Isn't that sweet? Kind of in a tough situation, Nan. I'm trying not to kill Sakura Horino cause she said my cousin was probably a street __ and that I'm just a bastard child. Hang on, kid. I'm about to enter in 3, 2, 1. A brown blur somersaulted in through the window and landed on top of the teacher's desk right as Iruka walked nearly giving the scarred Chunin a heart attack. Listen up, Burrs. My name is Ki Uzuzuki, also known as the brother of Naruto Uzumaki. You are to refer to me as Ki Sensei or Uzumaki Sensei. Now, I only got 3 rules, so pay attention. First rule, I will curse all I want, and I don't give a damn who says otherwise. Rule 2, any disobedience will be dealt with immediately and with more than a slap on the wrist. And rule 3, if anyone harasses my bro, there will be punishment. Better whip out your notebooks, kiddies. School's now in session, Jinso shouted. Iruka had recovered from his pseudo heart attack and turned to the class. Well, it seems the introductions are over. Now then, Iruka was interrupted by a shriek from Sakura. You threatened my mother yesterday, she yelled, pointing at Jinso. She annoyed me, I responded. End of story. Now pay attention to Iruka. Sensei. He replied with a twitching eyebrow. Iruka coughed. Thank you, Ki-sensei. Now then, before we start, are there any questions for Ki-sensei? Choji. Akamaiki raised his hand. Yeah, how are you a teacher? You don't look old enough to be one, the boy asked. Jinso nodded. Good question. Technically, you don't have to just be a certain age to be a teacher. You really just have to be a tunin. Shikamaru Nar raised his hand. You pineapple head. As a follow-up to Choji's question, how are you a tunin? Jinso chuckled. This is how Jinso faced the wall and grasped the handle of his sword. Everyone immediately focused on him. A flash of light signaled movement and before they knew it, they already heard the click of Jinso resheathing his sword. Parts of the wall fell off to reveal a short sentence. Field promotion, __. Jinso turned back to the class. That answer your question? Shikamaru just put his head on the desk, mumbling about troublesome blondes and their crazy brothers. Now then, if there are no more questions, let's begin the lesson. Jinso said with a crazy smile. It was now the day of team placements. Throughout the 3 years of the academy that had passed, the students had been taught a number of things and faced entirely new experiences. Of course, that always came with some trouble and different events. One such event was that he was going to be promoted to Jonin at the end of this last academy year. I'm not going to do the graduation test because you know that I just have Nar use KBs instead of regular bunchons. Additional the rookie 9 all passed. All right, here are your teams. Nar just laid his head down on the desk and waited for his name to be called. Team 7, Uzumaki Nar, Uchiha Sasaki, and Hyuga Hinata. Multiple shrieks appeared all over the room from Sasake's fan club. No, why couldn't I have been with Sasaki, __. I bet that Hayahusi is just trying to get in Sasuke-kun's pants. Naruto turned and glared at the one who said that, brandishing the Tonto Jinso had given him in the form of a massive claymore. You want to say that again, you fuck-faced skank? He growled out. Ahem. Everyone turned to see Jinso with his hand in front of his mouth. Now then, your team will be taught by Hideki Kakashi. Team 8, Inuzuka Kiba, Arame Shino, and Horino Sakura. I am not a __, you jerk. Excuse me, I coughed a little when I said that. Naruto and Sasaki smirked at the back of the room. Nangi actually did call her a __. Your sensei will be Yuhi Karana. Team 9 is still in circulation from last year. So Team 10 will be Yaman Nakaino, Akamaiki, Choji, and Narikamaru. Your sensei will be Serbia Asuma. Please wait for your team sense to arrive here. Jinso then gave a peace sign with his hand and with a loud shout of Yaen he threw a flashbomb down and disappeared. 3 hours later. Where the hell is our sensei? Sasaki yelled. Everyone else had already left the building and they were the only ones left. The three were sitting on a row of desks right beside each other and Hinata was leaning her head on Naruto's shoulder. Said. Whiskered blonde began tapping his finger to his chin. If I remember correctly, Misen said to wait 3 hours, leave a note for our sensei and a trap, and then go to the roof. Something about him being a major perv and always showing up late as __, he replied to the ravenet. So, then, Naruto got out a slip of paper, wrote down a message, and the three left to go to the academy roof. 1 minute later, a man with silver, gravity-defying hair stepped into the room. Seeing no one there, he looked around. Then Kakashi spotted a note on the floor. Dear Arrow Scarecrow, look behind you. Team 7PS, we're on the roof. Look behind me. What the? Oh, __, Kakashi had to dodge a hail of flaming and sparking canny before moving over an 8x4 mat of Makibishi spikes and finally leaping out the window to avoid a lightning bolt that crashed down where he used to be. Are they crazy? That could have actually killed me. Kakashi mentally shouted. He then shined up to the roof only to find Team 7 playing poker. Of course, he then face-faulted onto the ground. Oh, good. Sensei's here, Nar remarked while not looking away from the poker game. Kakashi got up slowly, his eyebrow twitching. The silver-haired Cyclops then used the demon head technique to shout at them. Good. I seriously could have died. Kakashi screamed with fire coming out of his mouth and in his eye. Then don't be late next time and Huant lay out any traps. Your skills must seriously be lacking for a group of greenhorn genin to get one up on you anyways. Sasaki told him, also not looking up from their game. Kakashi's eyebrow twitched once more. All right then. How about we do some introductions? Nar and Sasaki both let out a sigh at the same time and packed away the cards. As the three got near Kakashi, the Jonin pulled out his beloved Aikaicha Paradise. While Sasaki and Hinata were ahead of Naruto, the blonde had stopped, with a dark shadow covering his eyes. Kakashi-sensei, what is that in your hands? The blonde asked in a calm voice that sent shivers down both Sasaki and Hinata's spines. Oh shit, Kakashi just had to be a fan of the one book series in the world that Nar wishes to destroy. Sasaki thought with a mental roll of his eyes. Why, it's none other than Aikaicha, written by the great Jiro-sama of the Sonin. The cycloptic Jonin replied happily. Good. Nar then pulled the Tonto off his back, turned it into a massive longsword, and set it on fire, 'cause I'm going to destroy every last one of those books. The blonde shouted, death in his eyes as he raced toward the waste of paper. Holy __, duck and cover. Hinata Sasaki yelled as he and the Hyuga Ays both jumped far away from the blonde streak of death. Kakashi looked a boy who had just been caught by his mom sneaking out at night. Only his mother was a crazy-ass blonde with a massive flaming sword that wanted to destroy his book. Nar managed to get close and slice Kakashi's book into pieces only to find out that it had been replaced with a log. Said Jonin was hiding with Sasaki and Hinata. Sensei, if you value your life and your manhood, you will never take that book out near Nar again. Sasuke warned him. The Ravenet then got up and shouted out to Nar. It's all right. He promised to never take the book out near you again. All right. Nar nodded and put away his sword. The four then joined together by the side of the roof. All right. Let's do some introductions. Smutkiller, you're first, Kakashi said, pointing meekly at Nar. My name is Uzu Maki Naruto. I like Hinik-chan, Onion-san ramen, Ayame-chan, Enko-chan, Paki dango watching clouds. My dislikes are rapists, perverts, Naruto said, looking pointedly at Kakashi. That's smut which shall not be named. Arrogant people, and animal abusers. My favorite food is ramen. It's like crack, I tell you. And my goals. Hey, what the hell is that? Over there? Nar asked, pointing to a strange pulsing ellipse that was in midair. I don't know, Kakashi said, rubbing the back of his cranium. Nar began walking towards it. Little bro, whatever you do, don't touch. And of course, Nar had touched it right then, causing him to disappear in a flash of light. Jinso suddenly appeared on scene. __, he touched it, didn't he? The chocolate-haired god turned to Kakashi. Well, be back sometime. As the ellipse began to close, Jinso jumped straight through, sending him to a new place. On the other side of the portal, Nar and Jinso both tumbled out onto a grassy field, with a massive cherry blossom tree in the middle of it all. Damn it, Nar. When I say don't touch it, you don't __. Touch it. Jinso yelled. Nar got up with a sigh. Sorry. You know me. I'm very curious. Jinso nodded. Yeah, I do. Both of them then looked around. So, where the hell are we, Onion-san? Jinso looked and saw floating scrolls with 2 wisps of fire beside each. He then wet one of his fingers and stuck it in the air for a few seconds. Jinso brought it down with a deadpan look as he said, shit, what? We're in a video game right now. Nar face palmed. Why must I be attracted to shiny and glowing objects? He moaned. Jinso then noticed one of the scrolls coming towards them. Nar, stay back. What? Why? These scrolls contain powerful monsters. They're too much for you to handle, but they're a piece of cake for me. Now get back. Nar leapt away right as the scroll made contact with Jinso. And the god met 3 blue imps. Well, looky here, boys. We got ourselves a meal. One of them cackled. Jinso merely smirked and drew his katana. Sorry, but this item is off the menu. He shouted, suddenly appearing behind an imp as it burst apart. Jinso then appeared behind another, and it burst apart. He finally positioned himself across from the last one, and then jumped high, bringing the blade down right in the imp's forehead. The barrier then dispelled. For some reason, he heard a wolf and a squeaky voice. The god turned his head to see none other than Okami Amaterasu, running up with Asun on her head. Suddenly, the sun goddess was stopped by a shout from Un, which sounded something like, this guy doesn't look too friendly. Ami, you better be careful. Jinso turned around to face them, holding his katana by his side. Immediately, Amaterasu got ready to fight, and he soon said, let's show him not to mess with the sun goddess. Jinso merely flicked the mint green blood off of his blade and sheathed it. This confused Ami and Un, who said, he's not going to fight. Jinso crossed his arms. Come on. Out. Naruto. It's safe now. The duo looked to see a blonde 12-year-old with 6 whisker marks on his cheeks come out from behind a boulder. The teen then turned his attention back to Amaterasu. He studied the wolf, his eyes drifting up and down across Ami. Something wrong, kid? Un asked. Jinsu's eyes then looked right at the ponlay. Nothing is wrong, Un. Un and Ami immediately palled. How do you know my name? The chivalrous pervert said. Jinso folded his arms across his chest. I know all. Grandson of Asaku. Like that the brilliantly white wolf you are standing on is the goddess Amaterasu, and how you are on a quest to gather the 13 brush god techniques. Also, that a flamboyant Tao master who speaks gratuitous French and constantly aggravates you and me both is going to arrive in exactly 3.52 seconds. 3.52 seconds later. Hark! The call of the heavens, the earth, the sea. They summoned me forth to defeat evil. Waka, the god's gift to man is here. Bonjour, the half-baked prophet, announced as he landed atop the guardian sapling. He looked to see Jinso with Ami, Un, and Naruto. And Jinso's right eye was twitching. Who is your new friend? Masashi. Jinso drew his katana out of its sheath before he let out a roar of fury. Hajime, my how angry you are. Waka said as he dodged Jinso's attack. The chakinet landed on the ground, crouched and ready to fight. Jinso then laughed at Waka's statement once he landed. Oh, trust me, this is mere annoyance. Now, that being said, let us fight like true swordsmen, he stated. Waka glided down doing a mid-air piet. Indeed, Masashi, let us fight like warriors, not brutes. The Tao Master replied. On guard, Jinso mocked, leaping forward with the intent to stop Waka from drawing pillow talk. And it worked, as he was so fast that Waka was literally slammed into the barrier that somehow surrounded the fight, as it did for all fights, and received a nasty bump on his head that started bleeding. Amazingly, the slam broke one of the 3 weak spots in the barrier. And it dispelled. Whoa, the half-baked prophet got banged up real good, he soon exclaimed. Jinso sheathed his sword with a flourish and went over to Waka, who was holding his injured head. Need a hand, Masashi? He asked jokingly, extending his arm. Waka grasped the hand and stood up. I must admit that was quite the fight. If you could call it that. No, the Tao Master commented. Indeed, it was. Jinso's view then shifted to Amaterasu and Isun, who were being stared at by Nar. Nar, stop staring at the wolf and the little man on her head. You're making them uncomfortable, he barked. Nar immediately stopped. I just wanted to know why the wolf has weird red markings and a flaming mirror on its back. That's all. The Gentry replied in a whiny voice. Wait, kid. You can see Amy's markings? Un questioned. Yeah, so. Nar replied with a snort. Jinso face-palmed. Nar, the wolf is a freaking god. That's why she has markings in a flaming mirror. Oh, that makes much more sense. Jinso's palm once more introduced itself to his forehead. Anyways, can we hang with you two for a bit? We're really far from home and we got to figure out a way to get back. I don't know, Asun replied, trying to find a way to get out of the situation. Nar, do it, Jinso suddenly said, snapping his fingers. Nar formed a hand seal and shouted, no jutsu. A cloud of smoke enveloped him, clearing to show a hot, nearly naked woman with smoke trailing over the North Carolina 17 rated areas, if you know what I mean. Holy smokes, he soon mumbled, falling off of Amaterasu's head and onto the ground in a daze. Naruto transformed back into his regular self, and Jinso asked, so, what do you say? Heck yes, Yoon instantly replied, shooting up onto Amy's head. Now then, Mr. Flamboyancy. Off with you, Jinso said comically while making a shooing motion at Waka, not caring about anything. The Tao Master said. The group began walking around aimlessly. Why? Because it's what you do when you are in a video game and have nothing to do. So, if the wolf's a god, then shouldn't you two be bringing down divine justice or something? Nar asked out of nowhere. Amaterasu and Un suddenly stopped in place. Well, you going to answer me or what? Nar then questioned, getting annoyed by their silence. Jinso placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and squeezed it tightly. Looks like we still have to work on your patience when we get home. The Chaken told him. Joe then turned to the duo. Even though my friend here is a bit impetuous in his questioning, he does have a point. If you're a god, shouldn't you be doing a certain job? He asked them. Amitasu looked at Isun. And then at them. Follow me, the wolf said for the first time, surprising everyone but Isun. Amaterasu led them to Hana Valley, where they sat down underneath a tree. What would you like to know? She asked Jinso and Nar. For starters, where the hell are we? The whiskered blonde asked. Jinso gave him a look that told him to stop the cursing. You two are in a place known as Nippon 1, the land of mortals. You met us in Shinshu Field. He soon answered. Okay, then. Another question. What are you the god of? Nar then asked Amaterasu. First of all, I am not a god. I am a goddess, young man. I am Okami Amaterasu, goddess of the sun. All right. And who are you? The blonde then asked of Asun. I'm Yoon, the wandering artist and the seventh celestial envoy of the brush gods. Brush gods. This time, Jinso answered him. The brush gods are the 13 gods of the zodiac. Each god has rule over a specific part of nature, and many tales and myths involve them. The brush gods were originally one god, but that one god died, and its power was separated into 13 different entities. Each brush god can grant their powers to anyone they find worthy of using them, with the powers ranging from controlling the elements to the very heavens themselves. Jinso replied. Amaterasu narrowed her eyes. At this, how is it that you know so much about the deities of these lands if you claim to originate from elsewhere? Quote. She asked. I would rather not say for fear of you not believing me at all. Jinso told them with a sigh. Oh. Come on. I'm a living being as tall as your thumb that is sitting on top of a wolf that is a goddess. You honestly think I won't even consider whether or not what you would say is true? The punk asked with a laugh. You sure you want to tell them? Nissan. Nar asked him. Jinso nodded. They told us about themselves. It's only fair we do the same, he said, standing up from his spot. My name is Jinso. What I'm about to tell you sounds like it would be out of a fairy tale. I come from a different universe in of itself, and in that universe, I am the highest deity in existence. I rule over all heaven and earth there, and I have almost never interfered in the world's affairs. I would only do so if it was to be needed, which was almost never. However, I did so 3 years back in order to help out my friend here. Jinso gestured to Naruto to tell his story. You see, I am what is known as a gentry, which means power of human sacrifice, a sick title given to people who hold and or held demons inside of them. The land I come from is known as the Elemental Nations. It is composed of many provinces that are named after elements themselves. The 5 major villages of the nations are Konohagakure, Awagakure, Kumogakure, Sagakure, and Karakure. And each village has 1 or 2 resident gentry of the total 9. There is also a village called Tigakure which has 1 gentry. Back when the hidden villages were not founded, a man named the Rakudo Sennin, sage of 6 paths, became the first gentry of the Jubi, the 10-tailed demon, by sealing it into himself. The Jubi was the first of the Beiju, multi-tailed demons who roamed the lands. On his deathbed, the Rakudo Sennin used the last of his energy to split the Jubi's energy into 9 different beings, all having multiple tails. The beings were known as the Beiju-tailed beasts and were labeled the Ikibi, 1 tail Nibi, 2 tails, Sanbi, 3 tails, Yanbi, 4 tails, Gobi, 5 tails, Roku, 6 tails, Nabi, 7 tails, Hibi, 8 tails, and Kaiu, 9 tails. The number of tails of Buju had meant how strong it was in a sort of ranking system. Ikibi was the weakest and Kabi was the strongest. The Bu have had multiple vessels in the past as means to be controlled for war. Genshiriki are not well liked in most of the villages, with the only major exceptions being Kumo Kiri and Taki. On the day I was born, the Kaobi, which was the strongest of the Beiju, attacked my home, Konoha, under the control of a madman who hypnotized it for revenge. My father, the village leader, had no choice but to seal it into his only son, as a newborn baby's non-developed core would be able to slowly adapt to the Kali Yuki, or demonic energy. My father did not have the will to ask another parent to give up their child instead of his own, so he put the village before his family. His dying wish was for me to be seen as a hero for keeping the Kali at bay. But he was too naive to realize that Konoha was full of bigots and morons. For 9 years, I suffered abuse and isolation at the hands of most of the entire village. People beat me. They overpriced me for rotten food and useless tools. They kept their children away from me at all costs, and they called for my death multiple times. The blonde said, clenching his fists in anger. Un was shocked beyond all words. And Amaterasu had tears streaming down her face. I barely had any friends until I was 6, when the owners of a ramen stand found me half dead in the snow and took me in to heal me. They were the first people besides the village's leader, some of the civilians, and some of the Anbu, an elite squad of shinobi who protect the village's leader, to care for me and be nice to me without any intention of harming me. When I was 7, I met the love of my life in the park. She was being bullied by 3 other kids for always being shy around other people. I ran right over and punched the __ out of them, telling them to leave her alone or else. I instantly fell in love with her, and she felt the same way. The reason she was always so shy was because she came from a prestigious clan of people with the same special ability, and most of them had a stick shoved up their asses. Her father was always hard on her, calling her weak and making her fight her own sister. But apparently it was because he didn't want the elders of the clan to brand her with a horrible seal and put her in the branch family of the clan, who were essentially slaves in almost every sense of the word to the main branch. When I was 8, I met my friend Shino. He was from a clan that had a bond with special bugs that lived inside of them. His clan was always considered freaks like me for that. So we instantly became best friends. Then when I was 9, Jinso Nimi saved from what would have been my sure death at the hands of a mob. He stopped the final blow and killed everyone in the mob. Then he gave me a bunch of gifts. That really made my day. He also gave me a companion to be with me and has been living with me ever since. Said companion began snuggling around in Naruto's kimono, and then poked her head out with a cute yip. Just imagine Chibaterasu from Okami Den except with black fur, orange eyes, 3 tails, and no markings. Megumi hopped out of Naruto's kimono and landed on the ground, her 3 tails waving in the air behind her. Is that a kitsune? Un asked wearily. Yeah, why are you asking? Nar replied, putting Megumi back inside his kimono. It's just we had a Runin with a 9-tailed kitsune. A few years back, she killed the queen of Nippon and possessed a priestess body. Naruto's mind went blank for a few seconds. 9-tailed kitsune Rachan, was that you? The blonde asked his tenant. No way. Naruto __ I have never been here in my life. I swear. Ra replied, waving her hands in a no-wait motion. The duo looked over at Nar, seeing a multitude of emotions crossing his face. Hey kid, You all right? Un asked. Naruto's eyes turned back to them. Yeah, I'm fine, he quickly replied, keeping his eyes away from them. Anyways, do you two have any more questions? Amaterasu then asked them. Just one. Why are you two down here if one of you is a god? Jino questioned. I should explain. High above these lands, there is a place called the Celestial Plane. It is home to the 13 brush gods and myself. Earlier today, we all felt a disturbance in the properties of time and space. We were thinking of whom to send to investigate the disturbance. And I realized that I could visit all my old friends and soon. So I volunteered. That is how we found you two. She explained. I see. That must be why my abilities are not working. Jinso muttered. What do you mean? He soon asked him. As you might know, there is no such thing as a perfect defense. Correct. Seeing their nods, he continued. That means everything has a weakness, even gods. My abilities are all regulated by the space-time continuum. If there is a disturbance in it, I lose a few of my abilities. I can still teleport, levitate, etc. But I cannot open a wormhole if my abilities are messed up. If my abilities were not screwed up right now, I could have opened a portal that would have lead me and Naruto back home. But I can't. And the only way to get my abilities back is to find out what is causing the disturbance and stop it. Jinso finished. So, all we got to do is find out what's messing with stuff. It shouldn't be. That'll be easy. There hasn't been any major signs of evil in the land for about 3 years, Soon replied. Suddenly, Jinso and Amaterasu both perked their heads up and looked around before turning to each other. You sensed that, right? Jinsu asked her. Yes. There seems to be a fervent wave of evil energy coming from the north. Amaterasu said. Wait, there's something evil in Kimui. He soon asked. It feels so familiar, but I cannot quite place it. Naruto stood up. Then that's where we're going. TTO, he shouted. The group cheered and began running towards the north. Kimui. The group got out of the observatory and was immediately blinded by a snowstorm. Gez, it's cold. He soon exclaimed. We're going to need to find a place to stay until this blizzard ends. Nar agreed. Then let's get moving. Jinso finished. Amaterasu began leading them towards Oki's house only to find the Oina swordsman surrounded by at least 50 various Namahag. Oki. Amaterasu exclaimed. I soon tried to pull her back, but he was flung off. Jinso caught the little Pongal and gave him to Nar. I need you to watch over Yoon until Amaterasu and I get back. Okay. Got it. Nan, you can count on me. The blonde replied. Jinso gave a happy nod and began running towards Oki. Amaterasu leapt right into the fray, tearing at the monsters. Amaterasu, is that you? Oki asked, not believing his eyes. The one and only Oki, she replied, cleaving another Namahag in half with power. Slash. A dark shadow leapt up amongst the cliffs and began springing between them. It launched itself high, and then landed right next to Oki, turning out to be Jinso. Amaterasu joined them, the two forming a barrier to protect Doki. So these are the punks that having been ravaging Kamui, Jinso asked. Yes, they are. Those are known as Namahagarasu replied. Well, then let's show him what we're made of. The Choconet replied, throwing his sword in the air and pulling out 2 semi-automatic pistols. He leaned over a bit and his katana slid right into its sheath. Amaterasu roared at the Namahag, and the two of them charged. Amaterasu took half of the Namahag, while Jinso took the others. Amaterasu's fight. Amaterasu equipped solar flare for this fight and immediately charged her group. In the first few seconds, 6 Namahag had been killed after being bashed over the head with the reflector. Utilizing Gale Storm, she continuously collected demon fangs from the monsters. After finishing off the entire group, Amaterasu looked over where Jinso was. I think I'll go watch over Oki, she said to herself. Jinso's fight. The Choconet launched himself right over the group of Namahag, rapidly firing bullets into the crowd of monsters. Hey, I won't even need my guns for this fight, he muttered happily, putting away the pistols. The Namahag took this time to launch their signposts at him. With Oki and Amaterasu. Amaterasu had helped Oki stand up on one leg. His left ankle was broken and he had broken his whole left arm. Thank you, Panterasu. I think I would have been finished if you and that young man hadn't rescued me. The Oa warrior told her. It was nothing. Merely just helping out an old friend. She replied. Who is that young man anyways? He seems to be a bit underdressed to be in Kamui. Oki asked. I think you'll be fine. From what I can tell, he gasped. Jinso. Amaterasu suddenly cried out, seeing the Namahag throw all of their signs at him. Back with Jinso. Smirking, Jinso raised his right hand so that the palm faced the monsters. Don't you all know the saying? He asked as the posts continued to move. What goes around the signs quickly stopped in the air right in front of him, floating there. Jinso then exerted a wave of energy from his palm, pushing the signs back while saying, comes around. The signs bashed into their owners, sending the Namahag flying. Jinso held his hand in the air and moved it down, creating a katana with pure energy and solidifying it. He then held it behind him in a stance and disappeared with a sonic boom. The Namahag that were in the air froze up, and then exploded in a shower of monster blood with Jinso reappearing right behind them. He was then splattered with their mint green blood. Snapping his fingers, the blood vanished from the Choconet's jeans. He then ran over to Oki. You all right? Jano asked him. Oki groaned as the god held him up. I'll be fine. What is your name, young warrior? Oki asked him, turning his head to the side to speak. My name is Jinso, he replied. Well, then Grun. Thank you, Jinso, for helping me. It's no problem. Why don't we go inside so everyone can get warm? Jinso asked him, calling Nar over. The group all went inside Oki's house and dried off. A few minutes later, Megumi had wrapped herself up in her tails and was sleeping next to the fire. Everyone else was sitting around the fire themselves, drinking hot tea. Amaterasu and Jinso had dressed Oki's wounds and put his broken limbs into cast so that they could heal. What happened before we arrived, Oki? From what I've seen, monster attacks have been very rare in the past few years, and for you to be cornered by 50 of them is most unusual. Amaterasu asked him. I was visiting the other Oa at Weepgear when I felt a blast of dark energy. The Namahag came charging from inside of Yoshibent. I was trying to defend Weeper while everyone got to safety, but there were too many of them. That was when you four arrived, he replied, holding his broken arm. They came from Yoshibet. How is that possible if no beast or half beast can keep their bearings for more than 10 minutes maximum in there? Un asked him. Nar raised an eyebrow. Yoshibet. What the heck is that? The blonde asked. Yosht is known to my people as the forest of confusion. The trees inside it produce pollen that can cloud the senses of any beast. If a beast were to go inside of Yosht, it would have at the most 10 minutes to find safety before it completely loses its bearings and ends up starving or freezing to death. Oki told him. Geez, that sucks. Nar commented. Yeah, but that's not even the worst part. He soon replied, "You're kidding, right?" Nar asked him, wearily. Not a chance. They say that there is a secret part of Yasht that almost nobody has ever ventured into, and those who managed to enter it never came back. The Ponlay said fearfully. Okay, now you've gotten me interested. Jinso told him, watching intently. A long time ago, when Nippon first began, there was a Ronin one who traveled the lands, documenting everything he came across. No one ever knew his real name, but he came to be called the historian, for he wrote the beginnings of Nippon's history. One day, the historian was in Kimui when he came upon Yasht. Naturally, the historian was curious. He soon began. He managed to venture to a deep part of Yasht where the spirit gate stands. Seeing no other path, he turned to venture out of the forest. But suddenly, a spirit, black as night, came forth from the bushes. It beckoned him forward through an unseen path. The historian followed the spirit deeper into the forest where the sun's light barely shone. He came upon a hole in the ground, accurate purple smoke rising from its depths. Carefully, the historian ventured down the hole and landed on a platform. Almost immediately, a giant monster appeared and attacked the historian. As he was a Ronin, the historian vanquished the monster and cleared the hole of the smoke. When he did so, a tunnel appeared, leading him to a vast wealth of treasure. But it is said that a terrible dragon guarded the treasure, judging all who found him. And those who could not prove themselves worthy were killed on the spot. The travelers who found him had to prove their worth through a riddle that the dragon provided. Many have ventured forth to claim the treasure. But it is said that only the historian was worthy of doing so. Years later, a man by the name of Rushi, hunter, appeared before the dragon. Yushi had failed the dragon's test and was supposed to be killed by the dragon. But somehow he managed to escape its awful wrath and hid for the rest of his life. The dragon, furious at not killing an unworthy person, clawed its way out of the hole and ravaged that part of Yasht. It then lived in that area, ready to kill all who angered it. Legends abound of this dragon, but they all end with the same saying. When the moon is shadowed on the night it turns blue. The dragon shall emerge from its home and walk among mortals for a single night. He soon finished his tale, letting silence thicken the air. Wait, it said when the moon shadowed, right? Doesn't that mean a lunar eclipse? Nar asked. Jinso nodded. A regular lunar eclipse can cause the moon's appearance to turn red like blood, but when a blue moon is eclipsed, the appearance can change, depending on your viewpoint. 2a. The Chakin replied, well, it's a good thing that an eclipse of a blue moon only happens 11 times every 1,000 years, or we'd be in trouble. 2b. He soon remarked happily. Suddenly, a massive roar made everyone stop in their tracks and look out of the window. Something from deep inside Yasht was breathing fire into the sky while the eclipse of a blue moon shone brightly. You just had to type that in. You just had to type that in right as he finished saying it. You suck. You suck, author. You son of a god damn it. Can't I get a break from this you jackass? The blonde roared, pointing at the sky. Jinso put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and squeezed tightly. Nar, as much as I would love to punch the real version of me in the face, we aren't allowed break the fourth wall just yet. Un snorted. Too late for that. You really need more self-control, kid. The Ponlay said, I agree. The young boy should have more control over himself. It would not do him well to be easily angered in the future. Amaterasu concurred. Sadly, we have no time to yell at my real self, for the type Reem is commanding us to go fight the dragon. Jinso told him, the __, as that. Nar asked bluntly. You know the Matrix trilogy, right? Yeah. The type Reem is the author's version of the Matrix with a few tweaks here and there. What kind of tweaks? He can use it to make you do something. Suddenly, a breeze rolled in and everyone heard a voice. That's damn right, Blondie. Now, if you don't go kill that __, dragon, I'm going to kill you off and give your herm to Rocky. The voice said angrily. You wouldn't, Nar exclaimed in horror. Believe me, __, I would. Now get your whiskered ass over there. With that, the breeze was gone and the voice had left them. Well, let's get going, Jinso said after an awkward silence. As the group arrived in the clearing, Jinso surveyed the area. Many of the trees had been burned down by the fire that was shot into the air. Well, I don't think the dragon has gotten out of its hole yet, so we're good for now, he soon commented, looking around as well. Now being the key term, Jinso reminded him, so Nar, you didn't bring Mumi here, did you? The Choconet then asked the blonde. Nah, I left her back with Oki so she wouldn't get harmed. Nar replied. Good. Now, we need to be careful when going through here. None of us know what the terrain is like, so make every step Sue. Naru Umakii, the blonde suddenly shouted, running headfirst through the path to the hole. Damn it, Narut. Un's motto does not apply to you, Jano shouted, running after his companion with Amaterasu and Un 1. At the dragon's den, the other three appeared on the scene only to see Nar dodging a blast of fire. They followed the stream of flames to the source and saw it coming from a hole in the ground, bending like an L as it escaped. How the __, is that even possible? The blonde exclaimed, dodging another fireball. Hey, __, come out here and fight me yourself. Nar then shouted, shaking his fist. Suddenly, tremors rocked the area, and a roar came from the hole. I think you made it angry, he soon exclaimed. BGM activated. Gundam OT2 Track 29. Counterattack. The ground around the hole began to bulge and Jinso shouted, hit the deck. All four of them leapt away from the ground as it exploded in a burst of dark violet fire. Burning embers swirled around the area, lighting multiple trees on fire. Chunks of burning earth flew down from the skies they had been launched into. From the flames, a shadowy figure rose taller than even the Isafuji Mountains. As it reached the apex of its height, moonlight shone down, illuminating the monster. The dragon was covered in golden scales that shone in the moonlight. Its silver scaline eyes glowed entrancingly. Two shiny black horns stood proud atop its head, and its black claws and talons glinted in contrast to the snow. Its ivory teeth were crusted with the blood of the unworthy. The dragon reared its head back and let out a screeching roar, blowing all the needles off of many of the pine trees. Fuck. Nar stressed the F as he stared up at the dragon's hulking form. The colossal beast pointed its head up and let out a stream of fire from its mouth, roaring all the while. When it was done, the dragon crashed down onto all fours and stared at the group. BGM deactivated. Who dares to awaken I? Ryeg Goteki, Grand Dragon, Protector of eternal knowledge and slayer of the unworthy from my slumber. The dragon bellowed, its deep voice rumbling throughout the forest. Jinso stared at the dragon and then stepped forward with an impassive look on his face, studying it closely. He then blinked and smirked at the dragon. What? Do you not remember me? The Choconet asked, staring the dragon right in the eye. Ryu Goki leaned his head downwards to meet Jinso's gaze. Who might you be, young mortal? He asked. You must be getting old if you can't remember me, Ryu. Jinso asked him with a smirk. Ryu Goti's eyes suddenly widened and a laugh escaped his throat. Only one person has ever had the balls to call me that. Good to see you, Jinso. The dragon said happily. It's good to see you as well, Ryu. It's been, what, 200,000 years since we last met? Jinso replied. Indeed, it has. You seem to have shrunk in all that time. How did that happen? The mighty dragon asked. I kind of prefer to wear this around the humans so they don't freak out and try to have a paladin come kill me like usual. So, how have you been doing? Ryu. Jinso replied. The usual. A foolish human tries to prove their worth. I burn them alive and bite their legs off. It's much like bacon, believe it or not. Though, I believe the last time I actually had bacon was at that stag party Dionysus hosted. Now tell me, where is Cammy? How has she been doing? Rugi asked him. Cam's been doing well. She's in a whole another dimension, though. Oh, really? Well, it seems you have found a companion or three to travel